Around 11 that night, Maya Williams's sedan was moving slowly in the right lane along a lonely service road near the logistics district south of Atlanta. A police cruiser came speeding up from behind. Young Officer Owen Carter was driving, while Lieutenant Grant Mercer sat in the passenger seat. Mercer checked his watch and said, "Faster," Owen replied. "I don't even have a valid license to operate this vehicle yet." "Then don't give anyone a reason to check," Mercer said. Owen accelerated. Distracted, the cruiser crashed directly into the rear of Maya's sedan. The impact dented both vehicles, but no one was injured. Maya pulled over onto the shoulder. Inside the cruiser, Owen panicked. "We just hit her." Mercer did not respond. He saw the locked box on the back seat of Maya's car and ordered, "Switch places." The two men immediately traded positions. Mercer took the driver's seat, accelerated past Maya's sedan, and stopped directly in front of it. Then Mercer shifted into reverse and pressed the accelerator to the floor. The cruiser backed hard into the front of Maya's car for a second collision. Mercer stepped out of the vehicle with one hand resting on the baton at his side. He approached Maya's window and said, "Step out of the vehicle. You just rammed a police cruiser." Maya rolled down her window, looked at the cruiser blocking the front of her car, and replied, "You just backed into me." Mercer looked at the two vehicles and said, "My report won't say that." Maya remained in the driver's seat for a moment. She turned on her hazard lights and kept both hands visible on the steering wheel. "Is anyone injured?" she asked. Mercer seemed surprised by the question. "No." Maya looked toward the patrol car. Owen was now sitting in the passenger seat. His face was tense, and he avoided looking at her. "Then, let's make sure this doesn't get worse," Maya said. Mercer stepped closer to the window. "License and registration." Maya moved slowly, opened the glove compartment, and removed the documents. As she reached for them, a secure device inside her handbag vibrated once. Mercer noticed the movement. "What was that?" "My phone." Maya handed him her license and registration. Mercer read the name on the license. Maya Williams. "Yes." He studied the card briefly before giving it back. Maya noticed the way he had said her name. There had been no hesitation or curiosity in his voice. He sounded like a man confirming information he already knew. She placed the documents on the passenger seat and glanced down into her handbag. A small screen showed only a short message. "Transfer window active." She closed the bag. Mercer looked past her again toward the rear seat. His attention returned to the locked metal box. Maya followed his eyes. "You keep looking at that box. Step out of the vehicle." "Am I under arrest?" "No." "Am I being detained?" "You're involved in an active police investigation." "That doesn't answer my question." Mercer's voice became firmer. "Miss Williams, step out." Maya opened the door and carefully stepped onto the shoulder. She kept her movements slow and remained several feet from Mercer. The road was quiet except for the idling patrol car and the steady clicking of her hazard lights. Mercer pointed toward the rear of the sedan. "Open the back." Maya looked at him. "Why?" "There may be restricted municipal property inside the vehicle." She paused. Mercer had not asked where she worked. He had not asked where she was going. He had not opened the box or seen anything inside it. Still, he had already described the contents as possible municipal property. "How would you know that?" Maya asked. Mercer's expression changed slightly. "Know what?" "What I'm carrying." Mercer did not answer. Owen looked toward them from inside the cruiser. Maya turned her attention to him. "You were driving when your cruiser hit the back of my car." Owen swallowed. Mercer immediately cut in. Officer Carter was not driving. Maya looked back at Mercer. "I watched the two of you switch seats." Mercer did not react. Instead, he reached for his radio. Maya realized he was no longer trying to convince her. He was preparing to establish an official version before anyone else could challenge it. Mercer raised the radio. "Dispatch. This is Lieutenant Mercer. I have a civilian vehicle that struck a patrol unit. Possible restricted material inside the vehicle. I need the scene secured." Maya listened carefully. He had now placed both claims into the official record. That she caused the collision and that the contents of her car were suspicious. Neither claim had been established. Mercer lowered the radio and looked at her. "Now, open the back." Maya shook her head. "Not without a legal basis." Mercer stepped closer. You're making this harder than it needs to be. No, Maya said. I'm asking you to explain what you're doing. Mercer looked at the locked box again. That was enough for Maya. The first collision had been caused by Owen. She had seen that clearly. The second had been deliberate. Mercer had moved the cruiser into position, backed into her car, and immediately accused her of causing the impact. Now he was trying to gain access to the box before anyone else arrived. Maya looked toward Owen. He still would not meet her eyes. You know what happened, she said. Owen remained silent. Mercer turned toward him. Officer Carter, stay where you are. Owen gave a small nod. Maya understood the situation more clearly now. Mercer was controlling the report, while Owen was too afraid to contradict him. She looked toward the dark road behind them. At first, she saw only empty pavement. Then, several headlights appeared in the distance. Not one vehicle. Several. They were moving in the same direction and maintaining an unusually even distance from one another. Owen noticed them too. He leaned forward in his seat. Lieutenant. Mercer did not turn. Owen spoke again. We've got vehicles coming. Mercer finally looked over his shoulder. The headlights were getting closer. Maya watched his face. For the first time since the second collision, Mercer's confidence changed. He stared down the road without speaking. Maya looked at the approaching vehicles, then at the locked box inside her car. She did not know what Mercer had expected to happen next, but whatever he had planned, the situation was no longer under his control. Mercer turned back toward Maya and raised the radio again. The approaching headlights were still far enough away that he had time to act, but his voice changed. It became controlled and formal. Dispatch, Lieutenant Grant Mercer. Confirming a civilian sedan struck our patrol unit during a roadside stop. Possible restricted municipal material inside the vehicle. Request additional units and scene control. Maya listened without interrupting. Mercer had already reported that her car struck the cruiser, but now he had added something new. He had described the collision as happening during a roadside stop, even though the cruiser had first hit her from behind while both vehicles were moving. She took out her phone. Mercer noticed immediately. Put that away. I'm documenting the damage. I told you to put it away. Maya kept her voice steady. Am I prohibited from photographing my own vehicle? You're interfering with an investigation. I'm standing beside my car. Mercer moved toward her. Miss Williams, I'm not going to debate procedure with you on the side of the road. Then don't debate it. Just tell me whether I'm being detained. Mercer stared at her for a moment. You need to remain here until this scene is cleared. Maya nodded once. Then I'm being detained. I didn't say that. You said I'm not free to leave. Mercer's expression tightened. Maya did not continue the argument. She stepped far enough away from the vehicles to photograph them without entering the traffic lane. She took a picture of the damage to the rear of her sedan, then the damage to the front. She photographed the cruiser's front end and the position of its rear bumper against her car. Mercer followed her movements. You're done taking pictures. Maya lowered the phone but did not put it away. The first impact damaged the back of my car, she said. The second damaged the front. There was one reportable collision. Maya looked at him. There were two impacts. Mercer did not respond. She turned toward Owen. He was still sitting in the passenger seat, but now his door was open. His feet were on the pavement, and both hands rested on his knees. Maya spoke directly to him. Officer Carter, were you driving when the cruiser struck the rear of my vehicle? Owen looked at Mercer. Mercer answered first. Officer Carter was not driving. Maya kept her eyes on Owen. I asked him. Mercer stepped between them. You don't question my officer. I'm not questioning him as an investigator. I'm asking a witness what he saw. Owen stood slowly. Maya repeated the question. Were you driving when the first impact happened? Owen opened his mouth but stopped. Mercer turned toward him. Officer Carter. The warning in his voice was clear. Owen looked down at the damaged front of Maya's sedan. There was a collision, he said. Maya waited. That wasn't my question. Owen said nothing else. Mercer gave him a short nod, then faced Maya again. You heard him? I heard him avoid answering. He confirmed the collision. No. He confirmed something both vehicles already prove. Mercer's jaw tightened. Maya understood that Owen was afraid. but she did not know whether he was afraid of losing his job, being blamed for the crash, or something else. She also knew Mercer was using that fear. The headlights behind them continued to approach. Mercer glanced toward them again before returning his attention to the sedan. "Open the rear door." Maya did not move. "You still haven't given me a legal reason." "I have probable cause to believe your vehicle contains restricted municipal records." "Based on what?" "Information related to an active investigation." "What information?" "That's not something I'm required to discuss with you." Maya looked at the locked box through the rear window. "Have you seen anything inside that box?" "No." "Did anyone tell you what's inside it?" Mercer paused. Maya continued, before he could redirect the conversation. "You didn't ask where I work. You didn't ask where I came from. You didn't ask where I'm going. You didn't ask whether the box belongs to me. But you already decided it contains municipal records." Mercer took another step toward her. "You're making assumptions. I'm asking questions. You're delaying a lawful investigation. Then state the basis for the search." Mercer looked at her phone. "Turn that off." Maya glanced at the screen. "It isn't recording." "You expect me to believe that?" "You can believe whatever you want. I'm asking you to follow the law." Owen looked toward the road again. The approaching vehicles were much closer now. He could make out several dark SUVs moving in a disciplined line. "Lieutenant," he said quietly. Mercer ignored him. Maya opened the camera on her phone again and took one more picture showing the cruiser directly in front of her sedan. Mercer reached toward the phone but stopped before touching it. "Last warning." Maya lowered her hand. "About taking a picture? About interfering?" She studied him carefully. Mercer was trying to create more than a collision report. Every phrase he used gave him another possible accusation. Interference, restricted material, refusal to comply. He was building a version of events that could survive, even if the physical damage raised questions. Maya decided not to give him anything else. She put the phone into her coat pocket. "All right," she said. Mercer seemed surprised by the sudden compliance. Maya continued. "I won't touch the vehicle. I won't open the box. I won't leave the scene. You can document that too." Mercer stared at her. She had removed 3 accusations before he could make them. He turned toward Owen. "Go. Stand behind the cruiser." Owen hesitated. "Why?" "Because I told you to." Owen moved behind the patrol car. As he passed Maya, she spoke quietly enough that Mercer could not hear every word. "You don't have to explain anything to me right now." Owen stopped for half a second. Maya added, "But remember exactly what happened. If you understand why Maya refuses to let the truth be changed, please like this video. Tell us in the comments where you are watching from, because someone near you may be listening to this story too. And subscribe for more stories like this." He looked at her, then continued walking. Mercer raised his radio once more. "Dispatch. Update responding units. Driver is refusing consent to inspect possible restricted property." Maya immediately answered in a clear voice. "For the record, I am declining a warrantless search. I am not refusing a lawful search." Mercer lowered the radio. "You really think wording is going to save you?" Maya looked at him. "I think wording is why you're being so careful." Before Mercer could answer, the sound of multiple engines became impossible to ignore. The first dark SUV was now close enough for its headlights to illuminate the damaged sedan. More vehicles followed behind it, keeping a controlled distance from one another. Owen turned toward Mercer. "Those aren't patrol units." Mercer stared down the road. Maya watched him carefully. He had spent the last several minutes controlling every word that entered the official record. Now several new witnesses were about to arrive, before he had finished writing the rest of the story. The first SUV slowed as it entered the service road, followed by several more dark vehicles moving in a controlled line. None displayed police markings, and no sirens were used. Mercer stepped away from Maya and watched them approach. Owen moved closer to the cruiser. "Do you know who they are?" Mercer did not answer. The SUVs spread out as they reached the scene. 2 stopped farther back along the road, leaving enough space for traffic to pass if necessary. Another vehicle pulled in behind Maya's sedan, while the others stopped at measured distances around the damaged cars. Doors opened almost at the same time. Several men and women stepped out wearing dark jackets and identification badges that Maya could not read from where she stood. Some carried evidence cases. Others activated body cameras and began documenting the roadway. Expandable batons remained secured on their belts. No one approached Maya immediately. That made her more cautious. A woman with gray-streaked hair stepped out of the SUV closest to the patrol car. She appeared to be in her late 50s and carried herself with the calm authority of someone used to giving instructions without repeating them. She looked at the two damaged vehicles. Nobody moves either car. Mercer walked toward her. This is an Atlanta Police Department scene. The woman faced him. Then preserve it like one. Mercer stopped a few feet away. Identify yourself. She looked toward the cruiser. Turn on your camera first. Mercer's expression changed slightly. Owen looked at the dashboard. The patrol camera was still off. Mercer glanced back at him before turning to the woman again. The camera experienced a technical issue. Then document the failure. I'll handle my equipment. Good. Do it on the record. Mercer studied her. Who are you? The woman removed a credential wallet, opened it briefly, then closed it before Maya could read the details. Rachel Kim. That doesn't answer my question. It answers the part you need right now. Mercer's voice became firmer. You're interfering with an active police investigation. Rachel looked at the front of Maya's sedan, then walked several steps toward the rear. What happened? Mercer pointed toward Maya. Her vehicle struck my patrol unit. Rachel stopped beside the sedan and examined the damage at both ends. Which impact? Mercer said nothing. Rachel looked at him. There's damage to the front and rear of her vehicle. Which impact are you describing? The collision involving the patrol unit. There appear to be two. Maya remained silent. Mercer had spent several minutes avoiding that distinction. Rachel had identified it almost immediately. Owen stood near the cruiser with his hands at his sides. Rachel turned toward him. Were you present for both impacts? Mercer answered before Owen could speak. Officer Carter is part of my unit. Questions go through me. Rachel looked at Owen, then back at Mercer. I asked whether he was present. He was. Then his account can be taken separately. That won't be necessary. Rachel did not argue. She turned to one of her personnel. Photograph both vehicles before anyone touches them. Front, rear, wheel position, lane markings, debris, and final resting position. Mercer stepped forward. I haven't authorized your people to process this scene, Rachel replied. I'm not asking anyone to move evidence. I'm documenting what already exists. This falls under local jurisdiction. Then you should have no objection to an independent record of the condition you found. Mercer's jaw tightened. Maya noticed that Rachel had not defended her. She had not accused Mercer of lying either. Everything she said focused on preserving what could still be verified. That did not tell Maya whose side Rachel was on. A technician walked around the sedan, while another documented the cruiser. Each action was recorded before anything was touched. Mercer moved closer to Rachel. There may be restricted municipal material inside that vehicle. Rachel looked toward the locked box in Maya's back seat. Has it been searched? No. Has Miss Williams consented to a search? No. Do you have a warrant? Mercer paused. That's being addressed. Then nobody opens the vehicle until it is. Mercer looked at her sharply. You don't have authority to stop a lawful police search. And you haven't described one. Maya watched the exchange carefully. Rachel knew enough to challenge Mercer's procedure, but she still had not explained why she had arrived with multiple vehicles on an isolated road. Maya looked toward the SUVs. Several cameras were pointed toward the scene. For the first time since the collision, she considered the possibility that one of them might have captured what happened. Rachel appeared to reach the same conclusion. She turned to a technician standing near the lead SUV. Check all vehicle recordings from the approach. The technician nodded and returned to the SUV. Mercer heard the instruction. He glanced toward Owen. Owen saw it. Neither man spoke. Maya noticed both reactions. Several minutes passed while the documentation continued. Rachel remained near the center of the scene, watching everyone rather than focusing only on Maya or Mercer. The technician returned carrying a tablet. Rachel stepped toward him. What do we have? There's a recording gap. Rachel looked at the screen. How much? Enough to cover the approach and the critical part of the roadside incident. Hardware failure? I can't confirm that. Which vehicle? The one with the clearest forward angle. Rachel took the tablet and reviewed the entry herself. Maya felt her brief hope disappear. If the recording had captured Mercer switching seats with Owen and backing into her car, the argument could have ended quickly. Instead, the most useful camera had failed at exactly the wrong time. Mercer folded his arms. "So your equipment fails too." Rachel looked up from the tablet. "I didn't say it failed." Mercer's expression changed. Rachel handed the device back to the technician. "Preserve the original storage. Nobody attempts recovery on the network." The technician nodded. Maya watched him leave. That instruction told her something important. Rachel did not trust the system enough to let the missing footage be handled normally. Owen moved closer to Mercer and lowered his voice. "What does that mean?" Mercer ignored him. Rachel turned toward Maya for the first time. "Miss Williams, are you injured?" "No." "Did anyone else report an injury?" "Not that I know of." Rachel nodded, then looked toward the vehicles again. A technician who had been photographing the lower frame of Maya's sedan crouched near the rear wheel. His flashlight stopped. He leaned closer without touching anything. "Ms. Kim." Rachel walked over. "What is it?" The technician pointed beneath the car. "There's a device attached to the chassis." Maya stepped forward, then stopped when Rachel raised one hand. Mercer also moved closer. "What kind of device?" he asked. The technician studied it from a distance. "I can't tell yet." Rachel looked at Maya. "Did you install anything under this vehicle?" "No." Mercer immediately said, "That doesn't mean it isn't hers." Maya turned toward him. Rachel did not respond to either of them. She looked back at the device. "Photograph it. Where it is. Nobody removes it until we document the mount and confirm whether it's transmitting." Mercer stared beneath Maya's car. Maya watched his face. For the first time that night, his attention had moved away from the locked box. Rachel motioned for everyone to stay back, while the technician photographed the device from several angles. It had been fixed beneath the sedan close to the rear frame, where it would not be visible during a normal walk around the vehicle. Mercer stepped closer. "It could belong to her." Maya looked at him. "Why would I hide my own device where I couldn't reach it? People hide things for all kinds of reasons." "That's true." Mercer held her gaze for a moment, then looked away. Rachel crouched several feet from the vehicle without touching the device. "Can you identify it from here?" The technician adjusted his flashlight. "Looks like a commercial tracking unit, but the housing has been modified. Active. I need to isolate it before I can confirm that." Rachel stood. "Document the mounting points first, then remove it under seal." Mercer shook his head. "No. If that device is connected to this incident, it stays with local evidence." Rachel faced him. "Then, sign a joint custody record. I don't need your permission to collect evidence at my own scene. And I'm not giving you permission. I'm asking you to document who takes it, when it moves, and where it goes." Mercer's expression hardened. "You still haven't explained your authority." Rachel remained calm. "And you still haven't produced a warrant for the vehicle." For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Maya watched carefully. Rachel had not taken control of the scene by force. She was making it difficult for anyone to move evidence without creating a record. "That mattered," Mercer finally said. "Fine. Photograph it." The technician completed the exterior documentation, then placed a signal-blocking pouch on the pavement nearby. With Rachel and Mercer both watching, he carefully removed the tracker and sealed it inside. He wrote the time of collection on the evidence label, then held the form out to Mercer. "Witness signature." Mercer looked at the paper. "You're serious?" "Yes, Lieutenant." Mercer signed. Rachel signed beneath him. The technician carried the sealed device to one of the SUVs. Maya stayed near her sedan. The secure device in her handbag vibrated again. She glanced down. Transfer window narrowing. She closed the bag before anyone else could see the message. Rachel noticed the movement but said nothing. Mercer did. "What exactly are you waiting for, Miss Williams?" Maya looked at him. "I didn't say I was waiting for anything. You keep checking that bag. I'm allowed to check my belongings. Not if they're part of an investigation. Then identify which of my belongings are evidence." Mercer did not answer. Rachel looked toward the SUV where the tracker was being examined. "Let's see what the device tells us before we invent anything else." Mercer turned toward her. "You keep talking like I'm making this up," Rachel replied. "I keep talking like I want documentation. The technician returned, carrying the sealed pouch and a small offline reader. "We have a result." Rachel moved toward him. Maya remained where she was until Rachel motioned for her to come closer. Mercer followed. The technician held up the reader. The tracker was active. "Live transmission?" Rachel asked. "Yes." It was sending location data. Maya felt her attention sharpen. "To who?" "I can't identify a person yet," Mercer immediately said. "Which means it proves nothing," the technician continued. "But this unit stores local request history." Rachel looked at him. "Explain that without the technical language." He nodded. "It remembers when someone asks for the vehicle's location. It also stores identifying information from the system that made the request." Maya understood immediately. "So whoever was watching the tracker may have left a record." "Possibly." Mercer folded his arms. "Possibly. Is doing a lot of work there." Rachel ignored him. "Any recent requests?" The technician checked the reader. "Yes." "How recent?" "Shortly before the patrol unit reached this road." The silence that followed was different from the earlier arguments. Maya looked at Mercer. His face remained controlled, but his attention shifted toward the technician's hands. Rachel asked, "Can you identify the requesting system?" "Not completely from this device alone. I can pull a partial identifier and compare it against authorized networks." "Do that offline." Mercer stepped forward. "I want a copy of the data. You'll get a preserved copy through documented transfer." "I want it now." Rachel looked at him. "Then request it now, in writing." Mercer stared at her. Maya began to understand why Rachel worked the way she did. Every time Mercer wanted something immediately, Rachel answered with a record, a signature, or a procedure that would exist later. Mercer turned away and walked toward the cruiser. Owen watched him approach. "Did they find something?" Owen asked. Mercer lowered his voice. "Stay out of it." Owen looked toward Maya, then toward the sealed tracker. Mercer noticed. "I said stay out of it." Owen nodded, but the concern in his face remained. Maya moved several steps away from Rachel. "If that tracker was active before the collision, someone knew where I was." Rachel nodded. "Someone was checking. Can you tell whether it was police?" "Not yet." "Can you tell whether it came from your people?" Rachel paused. "Not yet." Maya looked toward the SUVs. The missing camera footage had already raised one problem. Now the tracker could point toward the same group that had just arrived. Rachel seemed to understand what Maya was thinking. "You don't have to trust anyone here yet." "That includes you?" "Yes." The answer surprised Maya. Rachel continued. "Trust later. Preserve facts first." Before Maya could respond, Mercer walked back toward them. His voice was lower now. "Whatever meeting you're trying to make, you won't make it tonight." Maya turned to him. She had never mentioned a meeting. Mercer realized it a moment too late. Maya spoke calmly. "I never told you I was going to one." Mercer's expression remained fixed. Rachel looked from Maya to Mercer. "What meeting?" Mercer answered before Maya could. "She's trying to create suspicion out of normal conversation." Maya did not argue. She simply watched him. Mercer had now revealed two things he had no clear reason to know: that the locked box might contain municipal material, and that Maya had somewhere important to be. Rachel said nothing, but Maya saw her attention change. A vehicle approached from the far end of the service road, moving slower than the SUVs had. It stopped outside the secured area. An older woman stepped out carrying a leather legal folio. Mercer saw her and muttered, "You've got to be kidding." The woman adjusted her coat, looked directly at him, and walked toward the scene. "Good evening, Lieutenant," Evelyn Grant said. Evelyn Grant walked into the secured area without hurrying. She was 68, dressed in a dark coat over a conservative suit, with a leather folio tucked under one arm. Mercer watched her approach. "I assume you're here for Miss Williams." Evelyn stopped beside Maya. "I'm here because you've created a legal problem and started documenting it before anyone could correct you." Mercer gave a short, humorless smile. "You always did enjoy an entrance." "I prefer paperwork." Rachel stepped closer. Evelyn turned to her. "Rachel Kim?" "Yes." Evelyn extended her hand. "Evelyn Grant." Rachel shook it. Evelyn then faced Mercer again. "From this point forward, Questions directed at Miss Williams go through me. This is a traffic collision, not a criminal interrogation. Then you shouldn't have a problem with counsel being present. Mercer glanced toward Maya. She called you quickly. Evelyn opened her folio. You arrived quickly too. Maya said nothing. The answer affected Mercer more than if Evelyn had accused him directly. Evelyn began with the scene. Has either vehicle been moved since the second impact? Rachel answered. No. Has the locked box been opened? No. Has the tracking device been removed? Yes. Photographed in place, removed under joint observation, and sealed. Evelyn looked at Mercer. Did you sign the custody form? I did. Good. She made a note. Mercer crossed his arms. Are you planning to conduct your own investigation on the shoulder? I'm planning to make sure everyone remembers what they did here. Evelyn turned toward Owen. Officer Carter, do you have independent counsel? Owen looked confused. Why would I need counsel? Mercer stepped in. He doesn't. Evelyn did not look at Mercer. I asked Officer Carter. Owen glanced toward his lieutenant. No, ma'am. Evelyn nodded. If anyone asks you to sign a statement about this collision, read every word before you sign it. Mercer's face hardened. That sounds like interference. That sounds like advice. Owen lowered his eyes. Maya watched him closely. He still looked frightened, but Evelyn had now said something no one else had. He might need to protect himself from more than outside investigators. Rachel approached. Maya, we need to move you from this location. Maya shook her head. Not without the box. The box can travel under separate seal. Then I'll stay with it. That's not the safest option. Maya looked toward the line of SUVs. One of your cameras lost the most important part of the incident. Someone tracked my car before the collision. I don't know who had access to that data. You're asking me to leave my vehicle, leave the box, and get into one of yours. Rachel did not argue. That's a fair concern. Mercer looked between them. Interesting. Even she doesn't trust you. Rachel ignored him. Maya continued. I don't know who sent these vehicles. I don't know who removed the footage. And I don't know who checked that tracker. You don't need to know all of that before leaving the roadside. Rachel said. I need to know enough. Evelyn closed her folio. Maya. Maya turned. The deadline. Maya reached into her handbag and checked the secure device. The message had changed. Transfer window narrowing. She closed the bag. It's getting close. Mercer immediately focused on her. What deadline? Evelyn answered before Maya could. Not yours. Mercer stepped nearer. If there's an active data transfer connected to evidence in that vehicle, I need to know about it. No, Evelyn said. You want to know about it. There's a difference? A large one. Mercer looked toward Rachel. Are you going to allow this? Rachel remained calm. I'm going to preserve the scene, the evidence, and the legal process. If you believe you have authority to seize something, put it in writing. Mercer gave a sharp breath through his nose but said nothing. Maya looked at Rachel again. If I go with you, where does the box go? Separate vehicle. Separate seal. Two-person custody. Who has access? Only assigned personnel. Maya glanced toward the SUV where the missing recording had been discovered. That answer would sound better if one of your systems hadn't already been compromised. Rachel nodded. I agree. The honesty caught Maya off guard. Rachel continued. You shouldn't trust the vehicle. You shouldn't trust a badge just because someone shows it to you. Trust the documentation we create around every transfer. Maya studied her. Rachel was not asking for blind confidence. She was offering a process that could be checked later. Evelyn reached into her coat pocket and held out a peppermint. Maya looked at it. You're offering me candy right now? You haven't eaten enough, and I don't have a sandwich. Despite the situation, Maya almost smiled. She took the peppermint. Evelyn lowered her voice. Justice isn't always fair at the beginning. That's why you don't let the beginning become the whole story. Maya looked back toward her damaged sedan. She had been resisting because she wanted control of the box and the scene. But the tracker had proved someone knew where she was. Mercer had revealed knowledge he should not have had. Remaining on the shoulder would not answer those questions. It would only keep her exposed. All right, Maya said. I'll go. Rachel nodded once. We'll document every transfer before anything moves. Mercer stepped forward. She is not leaving an active scene. Evelyn faced him. Is she under arrest? Mercer did not answer. Is she being formally detained? Again. Silence. Evelyn closed the folio. Then she's leaving. And, before Maya entered the SUV, she stopped near Owen. He looked at her, but said nothing. You know who was driving during both impacts? Maya said. Owen's face tightened. Mercer called from behind them. Miss Williams. Maya ignored him for one more moment. One day, you're going to have to decide whether your silence was loyalty or fear. Owen looked away. Maya got into the SUV. The locked box was sealed into a separate vehicle, with both transfer signatures recorded before the door closed. The convoy began moving away from the service road. Mercer remained beside the damaged cruiser until the last SUV disappeared from view. Then he took out his phone and made a call. She still has access to the package, he said. A voice answered from the other end. Then make sure the transfer never completes. The convoy entered a secured state administrative complex on the southern edge of metropolitan Atlanta. The buildings were plain and functional, with controlled vehicle gates, badge access, and a separate evidence bay away from the main offices. Maya remained in the SUV until Rachel confirmed that the vehicle carrying the locked box had arrived behind them. 2 personnel removed the sealed container, checked the custody form, and carried it inside without opening it. Evelyn joined Maya near the entrance. You all right? She asked. I'm fine. That wasn't what I asked. Maya looked toward the evidence team. I'll feel better when I know who put that tracker under my car. So will I. Rachel led them through security and into a conference room connected to a restricted evidence area. She closed the door after the last staff member left. For the first time since the collision, Maya was no longer surrounded by flashing lights, damaged vehicles, or people watching from the roadside. Rachel placed her credential on the table. Maya, there are things we deliberately did not discuss in front of Lieutenant Mercer. Maya sat down. Start with who you are. Rachel Kim, Chief of Protective Operations for the State Investigative Support Team. And those SUVs? They were assigned to protect a scheduled evidence transfer. Maya looked at her. Mine? Yes. Evelyn took the seat beside Maya. Rachel continued. The convoy was supposed to maintain enough distance to avoid drawing attention to you. You were never supposed to know exactly where we were unless something went wrong. Something did. Several things did. Maya thought about the missing recording. Rachel did not avoid it. One of our forward-facing cameras lost data during the most important part of the approach. Your vehicle was also being tracked by a device that was not part of our approved equipment, which means someone knew my route. It means someone knew enough to find you. Maya leaned back, and Mercer knew what I was carrying. That concerns me more. Evelyn opened her folio. Then we stopped treating the roadside collision as an isolated event. Rachel nodded. Maya looked between them. If we're done protecting titles, let's make mine clear too. Rachel waited. Maya said, I'm a forensic compliance examiner assigned to the Special Administrative Review. The title itself was ordinary. The work behind it was not. For months, Maya had been examining contracts involving municipal towing companies, impound facilities, and vehicle auctions. Her job was to compare invoices, custody records, payment histories, release orders, and disposal approvals. She did not carry a weapon, make arrests, or direct police operations. She followed records and identified where they stopped agreeing with one another. Rachel said, the review was restricted because several contract discrepancies appeared, connected to people with access to city systems. Maya looked at the sealed box through the glass wall separating the conference room from the evidence area. And that box contains records that never entered those systems. Evelyn nodded, which is why Mercer cared about it. Rachel gestured toward the adjoining room. Can we open it? Under documented custody, Maya said. And only after every seal is photographed. Rachel called 2 evidence technicians. They photographed the seal, recorded the chain of custody numbers, and opened the outer container while Maya, Evelyn, and Rachel watched. Inside were folders of paper records, carbon copy towing receipts, vehicle condition reports, invoice books, VIN sheets, release forms, handwritten notations. The name, Isaiah Williams, appeared on several documents. Rachel picked up one folder but did not remove anything. Your father? Yes. No one asked for a story about him. Maya pointed to the papers. He kept original working copies from towing and vehicle service records. Some of these predate the current investigation, but the entries can be compared against what later appeared in city databases. Evelyn looked at one of the carbon forms. Paper doesn't update itself. No, Maya said. And it doesn't accept remote corrections. Rachel closed the folder. What about the encrypted archive? Maya removed the secure device from her handbag and placed it on the table. That's separate. The paper gives us original physical records. The archive contains digital contract files, payment trails, auction histories, access logs, and verification hashes from the administrative review. Rachel looked at the display. The transfer window is still active? Yes. What happens when it closes? A verification package goes to an independent legal escrow. The files themselves? No. The package contains enough metadata and cryptographic verification to establish that the archive existed in its current form before any dispute over custody. Evelyn folded her hands. So if someone deletes the archive tomorrow, the escrow record proves what was there today. Exactly. Rachel nodded. Then let's authenticate it. They moved to a secure workstation that had been isolated for the transfer. Maya inserted her credential card and entered her authorization phrase. The system processed the request. Then a warning appeared. Credential conflict. Maya stared at the screen. Rachel stepped closer. Try again. Maya repeated the process. The same warning appeared. Active authentication session detected. Evelyn frowned. Meaning? Maya did not take her eyes from the display. Someone else is trying to use my credentials. Rachel turned toward the door and immediately called for the room to be restricted. No one enters or leaves without my approval. Maya removed her card. If they can authenticate as me, they can create requests that look like mine. Can they open the archive? Not by themselves. What else would they need? Maya looked through the glass at the paper box. The physical verification set. Rachel followed her gaze. The box. Yes. The pieces from the roadside began to connect. The tracker had exposed Maya's location. Mercer had known about municipal records he had never seen. Someone had interfered with the Convoy camera, and now another user was attempting to operate inside the system under Maya's identity. Evelyn spoke quietly. Don't cancel the transfer. Rachel looked at her. Why? Because whoever is doing this believes Maya still has to complete it. If we change direction immediately, we tell them what we know. Maya nodded. Let them keep trying. Rachel considered the risk, then picked up the secure phone. I need an operations administrator in here. Someone with authentication oversight. A few minutes later, the door opened. A man in his early 50s entered carrying a tablet. His badge identified him as Victor Lang. I heard we have an authentication problem, he said. Maya expected him to look at the warning on the workstation. Instead, his eyes went first to the opened evidence box behind the glass. Only then did he turn toward the screen. Victor set his tablet on the conference table and moved toward the workstation. Show me the conflict. Rachel remained standing beside Maya. You have read-only access until I say otherwise. Victor looked at her. If the authentication system is compromised, read-only won't tell me much. It will tell you enough to start. He gave a brief nod and opened the event log. Maya watched his hands. Victor moved through the system quickly, checking session records, credential requests, and the routing history tied to her authorization. His manner was calm and efficient. There's a second session using Miss Williams's credential, he said. We know that, Maya replied. Where is it coming from? I'm tracing it. Can you tell whether it's internal? Not yet. Rachel folded her arms. Don't modify anything. I understand. Victor continued working. Evelyn remained seated with her legal folio open, taking notes by hand. She did not interrupt until Victor stopped on one screen longer than the others. What did you find? Victor looked over his shoulder. A duplicate authentication request. From where? An internal access point. Rachel stepped closer. Which one? Victor hesitated. That's what I'm trying to confirm. Maya noticed the pause. Not confusion. Caution. Victor moved to another screen. The duplicate session may have been generated automatically during the failed transfer. Maya shook her head. The system doesn't create a second identity when authentication fails. It can if continuity protection activates. Not under my credential. Victor looked at her. You work compliance. I manage operations. And I know how my authorization behaves. Rachel raised one hand before the disagreement went further. Facts first. Could the second session have been created by the system? Victor answered carefully. It's possible. Could it have been created manually? Yes. Can you distinguish between the two? With a deeper audit. Do it. Victor looked at the locked archive. I'll need elevated access. No, Rachel said. He turned toward her. Then, you're asking me to diagnose a breach while blocking the tools required to diagnose it. I'm asking you to preserve the evidence before you touch the system that produced it. Victor leaned back slightly. Fine. I'll prepare an offline audit. Maya watched him close one screen and open another. What happens if the transfer window closes while you're doing that? Victor glanced at the secure device. If the authentication never completes, the package may fail. Maya looked at him. That's not what happens. Victor paused. Evelyn stopped writing. Maya continued. The verification package goes to independent escrow if the transfer does not complete. Victor gave a small nod. Right. I meant the primary transfer. You knew there was a timed process? That's standard for restricted evidence movement. Maya said nothing. There were many kinds of restricted transfers. Not all used this protocol. Victor seemed to recognize the problem. He turned back to the workstation. The immediate issue is preventing unauthorized access. Rachel looked at Maya. Maya understood the question without hearing it. How much should Victor know? She answered with another question. Has anyone tried to open the archive itself? Victor checked the log. Not successfully. Any request involving the paper verification set? He glanced toward the evidence room. No direct request. Rachel asked, Why did you look at that box when you entered? Victor turned to her. What? You looked at the box before the workstation. Victor smiled slightly. There's a sealed evidence container in a restricted room. During an authentication breach. I noticed it. That's all? Yes. Evelyn wrote something down. Victor saw it. Counsel, if you have a concern, you can ask me directly. Evelyn looked up. I just did. Rachel asked the question. Victor's expression stayed polite. Maya noticed how easily he controlled his tone. It reminded her of Mercer. Not because the men behaved the same way, but because neither wasted words. Rachel stepped away from the workstation. Prepare the audit without altering the source logs. Copy nothing to the network. I want the raw authentication history, physical badge access, and administrative overrides. Victor nodded. I'll have my team start. No team. He looked at her. You. Rachel. This is not a one-person job. For now, it is. Victor picked up his tablet. You think the breach is internal? Rachel did not answer. Victor looked at Maya. Whoever is using your credential may be trying to force you into making changes. Don't react too quickly. Maya held his gazette. That's good advice. Victor gave a slight nod and left the room. The door closed. Evelyn waited several seconds before speaking. He knew more than I liked. Rachel looked toward the hallway. He also has the access level to know more than most people. Maya walked to the glass wall overlooking the evidence room. Does he know what's inside the paper box? He shouldn't. Does he know why it matters? He shouldn't. Evelyn closed her folio. That's two things we're saying someone shouldn't know tonight. Rachel looked at her. Mercer knew about the municipal records. Maya added. And he knew I was trying to get somewhere. Evelyn nodded. Now Victor knows enough about the transfer protocol to answer questions you didn't ask. Rachel picked up the secure phone. I'm restricting administrative access until we review the logs. Maya turned toward her. Won't that tell whoever is inside that we're suspicious? Yes. Then don't do it yet. Rachel lowered the phone. Maya continued. If the second session is manual, whoever opened it expects me to keep fighting for control. If we suddenly shut everything down, they know. We saw them. Evelyn looked at Maya with approval. Let them think the problem is still technical. Rachel considered it. And if they try again, then they leave another record. Rachel nodded. Agreed. Maya returned to the workstation and inserted her credential card again. The warning remained. Active authentication session. Detected. The transfer window was still narrowing. Maya looked at the message for several seconds. Then she removed her card. "We don't chase them yet," Rachel asked. "What do we do?" Maya looked through the glass at the paper records. "We make them believe we still need the system more than they do." Across town, Mercer sat at a precinct desk, reviewing the first draft of his collision report. Owen stood several feet away, reading over his shoulder. The report identified Mercer as the driver. Owen stared at the line. "You changed the driver." Mercer kept typing. "I corrected the record. You weren't driving when we hit her the first time." Mercer stopped. Then he turned the monitor slightly toward Owen. "Read the whole thing before you decide what you want to object to." Owen looked down the page. His name appeared only as the passenger officer. He looked back at Mercer. "You erased me from the driver's seat." Mercer leaned back. "No, Officer Carter. I protected you from it." Owen read the report again. Mercer had written that Maya's sedan moved into the patrol cruiser during a roadside encounter, that Mercer had been driving, and that Owen had been seated in the passenger position. None of it described the first collision. Owen looked at Mercer. "You left out the part where I was behind the wheel. I left out the part that would end your career before it starts. You told me to drive, and you agreed. I wasn't cleared to operate that unit." Mercer turned toward him. "Exactly. So, think about what happens if your name goes into this report as the driver." Owen said nothing. Mercer continued. "The department sees an officer without proper driving clearance operating a patrol unit at speed. Then they see a collision involving a state employee. After that, nobody cares who told you to do what. You were sitting next to me. That won't save you." Owen looked at the screen. Mercer lowered his voice. "The report protects both of us. Don't make this more complicated than it already is." Owen understood what Mercer was offering. If he accepted the report, his violation disappeared. In return, he would have to accept Mercer's account of Maya. He did not agree, but he also did not walk away. At the secured state facility, Maya was facing a different version of the same problem. Someone had entered the authentication system using her credentials, and every attempt to continue the transfer produced another conflict. Rachel stood near the workstation while Evelyn reviewed handwritten notes at the conference table. Maya inserted her credential card again. The system processed the request, then rejected it. Active authentication session detected. Rachel frowned. "That's the third conflict. The third one we can see," Maya said. "Can they complete the transfer under your identity?" "No. They don't have the physical verification set." Rachel glanced through the glass at the paper box. "But they can keep interfering." "Yes." Evelyn looked up. "What if you stop trying?" Maya turned toward her. Evelyn closed her pen. "Every time you challenge the session, whoever is inside responds. What happens if you let the transfer window close? The primary transfer won't complete. And then?" Maya looked at the secure device. "The verification package goes to independent legal escrow." Rachel stepped closer. "What exactly is in that package?" "Not the files. It contains the archive identifier, file hashes, custody metadata, and enough verification data to establish that the archive existed in its current form before tonight." "So, they couldn't say you created the archive later?" "Correct." Evelyn nodded. "And they couldn't erase it and claim there was never anything to erase." Maya looked at the warning on the workstation. Rachel said, "If we let the window expire, we lose control of the primary transfer." "We already lost control of it," Maya replied. "Someone is inside the process, using my identity." Rachel considered that. Evelyn leaned back in her chair. "You're treating the deadline like something you have to beat. Maybe it's there because whoever designed this process assumed there would be a night like this." Maya studied the secure device. The transfer window was nearly closed. She had spent the last several hours trying to protect control of the archive. Now she realized that control was no longer the immediate goal. Proof of existence was, Rachel asked, "If we do this, can the escrow package be intercepted?" "It goes outside the administrative network through a separate legal channel. Can Victor access it?" "No." "Mercer?" "No," Evelyn said. "Then stop fighting the clock." Maya removed her credential card. Rachel looked at her. "You're sure?" No, that's not reassuring. It's accurate. Rachel accepted the answer. No one touched the workstation. The room became quiet as the remaining transfer window continued to narrow. Maya did not look away from the screen. She thought about Mercer's confidence on the roadside, the tracker under her car, the missing convoy footage, and Victor's immediate interest in the evidence box. Someone had expected her to complete this process. Someone had been ready to interfere with each step. Evelyn watched her. Second thoughts? Several. Good. People make expensive mistakes when they stop having those. Maya gave her a brief look, then returned her attention to the screen. The transfer window closed. A status message appeared. Primary transfer incomplete. Rachel stepped forward. Then, a second message appeared. Legal escrow verification confirmed. Maya released a slow breath. Evelyn nodded. There it is. Rachel asked. What changed? Maya opened the receipt details. The archive is still locked here, but escrow now has independent confirmation that it existed before this dispute began. Can anyone change that record? Not from this system. For the first time since arriving at the facility, Maya felt they had gained something the other side could not easily take back. It lasted less than a minute. A new notice appeared on the workstation. Emergency administrative hold. Maya leaned closer. Rachel read over her shoulder. Who issued that? The notice stated that access to the primary archive had been suspended pending a chain of custody review. Evelyn stood. Convenient. Maya opened the order. It was filed through the administrative oversight channel. Rachel asked, Can you still access the archive? Maya tried. Access suspended. She tried a second function. The same response appeared. Rachel's expression hardened. They were prepared for this. Either for the transfer completing, Maya said, or for it failing. Evelyn walked toward the workstation. Can the hold affect the escrow receipt? No. Then we still have something they don't control. The conference room door opened. Victor entered with his tablet. I just received the hold notice. Rachel looked at him. That was fast. It went to operations automatically. Victor moved toward the workstation. If the archive is under administrative hold, I can stabilize the environment and prevent further credential conflicts. Maya turned toward him. What do you mean by stabilize? Temporarily isolate the archive and reset the active sessions. You would need elevated evidence access. Yes, Rachel said. No. Victor looked at her. If the unauthorized session is still active, leaving it untouched creates additional risk. Maya asked. Why does an operations coordinator need direct access to the evidence itself? Victor's expression remained calm. Because right now operations is the only thing keeping this process from collapsing. Maya held his gaze. That sounds less reassuring every time you say it. Victor closed the tablet cover. I'm trying to help. Evelyn walked toward the evidence room and looked through the glass at the paper records. Then help by leaving the archive exactly where it is. Victor glanced toward the box. Rachel noticed. So do I. Victor did not ask what she meant. He simply nodded and stepped back. Maya looked at the locked workstation, then at the paper records that required no password, no session, and no administrative override. The newest evidence was now beyond her reach. The oldest evidence was still sitting in the next room. Evelyn picked up her folio. Looks like we're going to work on paper. Rachel moved the paper records into the conference room under a new custody log. Every folder was numbered before it left the evidence area, and Maya signed beside each entry. Victor remained outside after Rachel revoked his access to the room. Maya opened the first folder and spread several tow receipts across the table. These are original carbon copies, she said. The information was written when the vehicles were received. Evelyn adjusted her glasses. What are we comparing them against? The current city records. Rachel brought over a separate workstation that could display administrative files without giving access to the locked archive. Maya entered the first vehicle identification number. The electronic record described a sedan that had been operable when it entered municipal custody. It stated that the owner failed to remove the vehicle after receiving notice, allowing storage fees to continue until the car qualified for auction. Maya looked at the paper form. That's not what the original says. Rachel leaned closer. The carbon copy listed the vehicle as non-operational because of a failed transmission. It also showed that the owner had requested release before the storage period listed in the city database. Evelyn read both records carefully. So the vehicle stayed in the lot after the owner tried to recover it. Yes. And the electronic file makes it look like the owner did nothing. Yes, Rachel asked. What difference does that make financially? Maya pointed to the fee schedule. If the owner is recorded as failing to respond, storage charges continue. If those charges become high enough, the owner may decide the car is no longer worth recovering. Evelyn looked at the vehicle value. This one belonged to a retired delivery driver. Maya nodded. He was already paying for a major transmission repair. Add towing, storage, administrative fees, and release costs, and the total becomes difficult to justify. Rachel sat down across from them. What happened to the car? Maya opened the auction record. It was sold. To who? Northfield Motor Holdings. They moved to another folder. This time, the paper condition report showed that the vehicle had arrived with a seized engine. The city record later described it as operable and stated that the owner had abandoned it after repeated notices. The owner was a 63-year-old woman living on a fixed retirement income. Maya found a signed release request in the paper file. She came for it. Rachel read the signature. Then why does the database say there was no owner contact? That's what we need to determine. Evelyn looked at Maya. Or who benefited from writing it that way? Maya opened the auction history. The vehicle had been sold to a company called South Creek Auto Group. Rachel frowned. Different buyer. Maybe. Maya searched the payment administrator attached to the sale. She stopped. Evelyn noticed. What? Maya opened the earlier Northfield record and placed both payment screens side by side. Same accounting office. Rachel looked from one to the other. Two companies using the same financial administrator? That can happen. But you don't think this is a coincidence? I don't know yet. Maya pulled a third folder. The next vehicle belonged to the owner of a small upholstery shop. The paper record showed that he had appeared at the impound facility and disputed the storage charges. The city database showed no completed release request. The car later went to auction. Buyer. Crestline Vehicle Partners. Maya checked the payment routing. The same accounting office appeared again. Evelyn leaned back. 3 buyers. Maya looked at the screen. 1 wallet. Rachel folded her arms. So the companies may be separate on paper, but the money is being handled through the same place. Yes. Can we prove common ownership? Not from these records alone. Then, what can we prove? That 3 companies repeatedly purchased vehicles from the same municipal auction stream, and payments were administered through the same financial office. Evelyn nodded. Good. Say only that. Maya continued through the records. The pattern became clearer. Vehicles entered impound with mechanical problems. Original paper forms documented those problems and, in several cases, showed that owners attempted to recover their property. Later electronic records described the owners as unresponsive, uncooperative, or unwilling to pay required fees. The longer the vehicles remained in custody, the more the charges increased. Eventually, many were sold. Rachel reviewed the owners listed on the files. These aren't people abandoning luxury cars. No. Among them were a retired postal worker, a church deacon, a former warehouse supervisor, and a woman who had closed her small beauty salon after more than 30 years. Evelyn tapped one of the files. At 25, losing a car can be an inconvenience. At 65, it can decide whether you get to the doctor, buy groceries, or keep living on your own schedule. Maya said nothing for a moment. That was the part the spreadsheets did not show. The database recorded fees and disposition codes. It did not record what losing a vehicle meant to someone who had spent decades depending on it. Rachel turned to another folder. Where does Mercer come in? Maya began checking approval codes. At first, nothing appeared unusual. Some files had been reviewed by clerks, supervisors, and contract administrators. Mercer's name did not appear everywhere. Then Maya found the first repeat. An incident classification had been changed after impound intake. Approval code. G. Mercer. She checked another file. The same code appeared on a supplemental review that supported continued vehicle retention. Then another. A classification dispute. Again. Mercer. Evelyn looked at the growing list. Enough to matter? Not enough to accuse him of owning the operation. That wasn't my question. Maya nodded. Enough to show he repeatedly approved decisions that kept certain vehicles inside the system longer. Rachel asked. And those vehicles were later sold? Several of them. To the 3 companies. Many of them. Maya pulled up a payment summary that had been preserved separately from the locked archive. There were consulting transfers from the common financial administrator to another business entity. She could not yet connect that entity directly to Mercer, but the payment dates appeared near several of his approvals. Rachel looked at the screen. Can we follow that money? If we get the underlying banking records. Evelyn closed one folder and opened another. Then, we don't call it a scheme yet, Maya agreed. We call it a pattern. For the next hour, they organized the paper records into groups. Vehicle condition changes, owner contact discrepancies, extended storage, auction sales, repeated buyers, and Mercer-related approvals. The same sequence appeared often enough that none of them could dismiss it. Maya finally pushed her chair back. He didn't stage the second collision because he was worried about an accident report. Evelyn looked at her. No. Maya turned toward the locked archive visible through the glass. He was worried about what the audit would connect. Rachel picked up the custody folder. And now we know where to look next. Maya's secure device remained silent on the table. The archive was still locked, but the paper records had already shown that the collision on the service road was connected to something much larger than a damaged patrol car. Mercer called Owen into a small briefing room behind the watch commander's office. The room had no windows and only a narrow table, 4 chairs, and a wall monitor used for internal reviews. Owen entered and remained standing. Mercer was already seated with several printed records arranged in front of him. Close the door. Owen did. Mercer pointed to the chair across from him. Sit down. Owen stayed where he was. What is this about? Mercer picked up the first sheet. Vehicle assignment. He turned it around. The document showed that the patrol cruiser involved in the collision had been issued under Mercer's name. Owen frowned. That's not what happened. It's what the current record shows. You had me take the wheel before we left the precinct. Mercer placed another document on the table. This is the unit access log. Owen looked at it. The driver terminal showed Mercer's credentials active before the cruiser entered the service road. Owen read the entry twice. You changed this. Mercer leaned back. You need to stop saying things you can't prove. I was driving. You've already established that you want people to know that. I'm not saying I want them to know. I'm saying it happened. Mercer pushed a third document toward him. It was a still image from the garage camera. The frame showed Mercer approaching the cruiser from the driver's side while Owen stood partly out of view. Owen immediately understood what Mercer was doing. You picked one frame. I printed the clearest frame. There are other cameras. Then investigators can review them. If they still exist. Mercer's expression remained calm. Owen stared at him. You're building 2 versions. Mercer said nothing. One where you were driving, and another where I took the cruiser without authorization. Mercer folded his hands. You're finally paying attention. Owen looked again at the documents. If this goes away, the report says you were driving. Yes. And if it doesn't, that depends on what investigators decide matters. No. It depends on what you decide to give them. Mercer's voice hardened slightly. Watch your tone. Owen ignored the warning. You told me the report was protecting me. It is. How? Your name is not attached to an unauthorized driving violation. You are not listed as the person who caused the first impact. You are not facing questions about why you were operating a patrol unit without clearance. Owen shook his head. Until you need someone to blame. Mercer waited before answering. If this becomes a larger investigation, people will look for the simplest explanation. A new officer without proper driving authorization makes a bad decision, causes a collision, panics, and starts changing his story after outside investigators arrive. Owen's face tightened. That's what you're preparing. I'm explaining what could happen. You're preparing it. Mercer stood. You need to understand your position. You have no seniority. You have no completed driving clearance. You were involved in a collision with a state employee. If you suddenly accuse a lieutenant of staging a second impact, people are going to ask why you said nothing at the scene. Owen had no answer. Mercer continued. Then they'll ask why you signed a supplemental report. Owen looked at him. You pressured me. Did I threaten you? You told me my career was over if I corrected the report. I told you the truth about how the department would see it. Owen looked down at the paperwork again. Mercer was right about one thing. Owen had already made himself vulnerable. He had driven without proper clearance. He had stayed silent. He had signed a report he knew was incomplete. Every choice made the next one harder. Mercer placed a new supplemental statement on the table. This keeps your account consistent. Owen picked it up. The statement said that he had been seated in the passenger position and could not independently determine how Maya's sedan moved before the second impact. He looked at Mercer. You want me to sign this too? I want you to stop making yourself the weakest part of the report. Owen set the paper down. What happens if I don't? Mercer gave him a direct look. Then I stop protecting you. Owen understood the answer completely. He picked up the supplemental statement and folded it once. I'll read it. Mercer nodded. Do that. Owen left the briefing room without signing. He walked through the precinct, past the front desk, and continued into the employee parking lot. Once inside his own car, he locked the doors and sat in silence. His phone was in the cup holder. For several minutes, he considered calling someone. Internal affairs. A lawyer. Maya. He rejected all three. A phone call would create a record before he had anything stronger than his own word. Mercer already had official documents. Owen needed something Mercer could not rewrite. He drove several miles away from the precinct and stopped at a small office supply and electronics store near a shopping center. Inside, he found a basic digital recorder designed for meetings and interviews. No wireless connection, no cloud account, no phone application. It stored audio locally. Owen paid cash. The older clerk placed the recorder and receipt in a small paper bag. Interview? The man asked. Owen looked at the bag. Something like that. He returned to his car and read the instructions carefully. He tested the recorder with the radio playing softly, then listened through a pair of wired earbuds. The sound was clear. Owen turned it off and sat for another moment. Buying the recorder had been easy. Using it would mean returning to Mercer and pretending he had accepted everything. He knew Mercer would become cautious if challenged again, so Owen decided to stop challenging him. Later, he returned to the precinct with the recorder inside his jacket pocket. Mercer was at his desk reviewing documents. Owen placed the folded supplemental statement in front of him. I've been thinking about what you said. Mercer looked up. And? I don't want to lose my career over this. Mercer leaned back. That's sensible. Owen sat across from him. I just need to know what I'm supposed to remember if someone asks me again. Mercer studied him for several seconds. Owen kept his expression neutral. Finally, Mercer said, remember that I was driving. Remember that Williams became difficult after the collision. And remember that you didn't see anything that contradicts the report. Owen nodded. What about the tracker? Mercer's eyes changed. What about it? The device they found under her car. If they ask whether we knew about it, what do I say? Mercer looked toward the open office door, then lowered his voice. You say you knew nothing. Owen waited. Mercer continued. The tracker should have given us more time. Owen did not move. He did not ask what Mercer meant. He did not look down at the recorder. He simply nodded once and said, Understood. Mercer returned to his paperwork. Inside Owen's pocket, the recorder continued running. At the state facility, Rachel ordered a deeper review of the tracker without reconnecting it to the network. The technician who had examined it at the roadside returned with a printed log and placed it on the conference table. Maya sat beside Evelyn while Rachel stood at the head of the table. What did you find? Rachel asked. The technician pointed to several entries. The tracker was queried multiple times before the collision. Some requests came through commercial routing services, but these three used internal authentication. Maya leaned closer. Internal to where? The technician hesitated. Our operations system. Rachel's expression changed. Which account? He turned the page. Yours. The room went quiet. Maya looked at Rachel. Rachel did not defend herself. Show me. The technician slid the printout across the table. The requests carried Rachel's user identification and matched the level of access normally assigned to her position. Evelyn adjusted her glasses. Does that mean Rachel made the requests? No, the technician said. It means the system recognized her credentials. Maya looked at Rachel. Did you track me? I authorized protective tracking as part of the convoy plan. Rachel replied. I did not authorize those queries. Your name is on them. I can see that. Maya waited for an explanation. Rachel did not give one. Instead, she said, assume it could be me. Maya frowned. You want me to treat you like a suspect? I want you to treat everyone as a possibility until the evidence excludes them. Evelyn looked at Rachel with more interest now. Rachel continued. Trust is personal. Evidence is not. If my credentials were used, then my movements need to be checked like anyone else's. Maya nodded slowly. It was the first time since the roadside that Rachel had made herself subject to the same standard she was applying to everyone else. The technician opened another folder. We already started that comparison. Rachel looked at him. Results? Badge access says you entered the secure operations room before one of the tracker requests. Maya looked back at Rachel. Rachel remained calm. And the cameras? The corridor camera shows you in another part of the building. Evelyn asked. Could the badge record be wrong? Not by accident. What about the camera? We checked the source file. No obvious alteration. Rachel folded her arms. What else confirms my location? The technician handed over another page. You were in an administrative meeting. There's an internal audio record, and 6 people signed the attendance sheet. Maya looked at the 2 sets of information. The badge system placed Rachel in one room. The camera and meeting record placed her somewhere else. Someone duplicated her access, Maya said. Possibly her badge and authentication token. The technician replied. Rachel asked, how many people could do that without triggering an immediate alert? 3 administrators have enough access to modify authentication routing at that level. Maya already knew one name. Victor. The technician nodded. Victor Lang is one of them. Rachel picked up the secure phone. Get me the other 2 names and preserve their access logs. Before she could make the call, the conference room door opened. Victor entered carrying a paper folder. Rachel lowered the phone. I was about to call you. Victor looked around the room. Good. I found the breach. Maya watched him place the folder on the table. That was quick, Evelyn said. Victor ignored the remark and opened the report. The unauthorized tracker queries originated through an administrative relay assigned to a systems technician. His credentials show multiple irregular access events. Rachel looked at the name. Has he been interviewed? Not yet. Has his access been suspended? I isolated the account. Rachel's eyes sharpened. You changed a live account without authorization? I contained a potential threat. You were told not to modify source systems. Victor kept his voice calm. The risk justified. Immediate action. Maya reached for the report. Victor let her take it. She read the first page, then checked the creation information printed near the footer. Something did not make sense. When did you generate this? Victor looked at her. After the audit began. Maya pointed to the document. This version existed before Rachel ordered the full audit. Victor glanced down. It was probably an automated draft. Automated from what? Preliminary alerts. Rachel asked. Why would a preliminary alert identify a specific technician before we knew the tracker queries came through my account? Victor did not answer immediately. Maya continued. You wrote the conclusion before we opened the question. Victor gave a small smile. I've been doing operations work a long time. Sometimes you see where a problem is going before the paperwork catches up. Maya looked at him. Or sometimes you know where it started. The smile disappeared. Victor closed the folder. If you've already decided I'm involved, say it. Rachel answered. No one has decided that. Then stop treating routine system knowledge like evidence. Evelyn spoke for the first time in several minutes. Routine knowledge usually arrives after the event. Victor looked toward her. Evelyn held his gaze. Your report arrived before it. Victor took the folder back. If you want a formal explanation, I'll prepare one. Rachel nodded. Do that. And do not touch another account until I authorize it. Victor turned toward the door. A warning tone sounded from the wall terminal before he reached it. Rachel looked at the display. Evidence transfer. Initiated. Maya stood. What evidence? Rachel opened the transfer notice. 2 paper evidence boxes had been scheduled for movement to secondary storage. Maya stepped beside her. Who authorized that? Rachel scrolled down. The authorization showed Maya's electronic signature. Maya stared at the screen. I didn't sign anything. Victor turned back. That could be part of the same credential compromise. Rachel read the destination line. This isn't an approved secondary location. Victor walked closer. Then cancel it. Rachel looked at him. Why? Because the evidence is moving somewhere it shouldn't. Maya watched him carefully. Or because whoever ordered it expects us to panic and override the process. Victor's jaw tightened. Rachel picked up the secure phone. No cancellation yet. Lock the receiving authorization and confirm physical custody first. Victor said. You're wasting time. Rachel looked directly at him. No. I'm making sure the next record is real. Maya turned toward the glass wall. One of the evidence shelves was already empty. 2 boxes were gone. The authorization carried her name, but she had never approved the transfer. For the first time, the same system that had tried to impersonate her was no longer only changing data. It was moving physical evidence. Rachel immediately contacted the transport control desk and asked for the current custody status of the 2 missing boxes. The answer was not simple. One office showed the evidence as released for transfer. Another showed the receiving location as pending confirmation. The transport record listed a state logistics vehicle, but the destination code did not match any facility Rachel had approved. Maya stood beside the conference table while Evelyn opened her legal folio. Can you stop the vehicle? Maya asked. Rachel shook her head. Not by making an undocumented call. If we interfere with the transfer outside the custody process, whoever ordered this can later argue that we contaminated the evidence ourselves. So we let the boxes keep moving? No. We stopped them correctly. Rachel called the state duty attorney and requested an emergency preservation order. Evelyn worked beside her, identifying the disputed authorization, the cloned credential, and the risk that original paper records were being moved without valid approval. Victor remained near the doorway. This is taking too long, he said. Cancel the transfer and bring the vehicle back. Rachel did not look at him. Under whose authority? Yours. That is exactly what someone expects me to do. Victor folded his arms. You're worried about paperwork while evidence is leaving the building. Evelyn looked up. Paperwork is the reason we can prove who moved it. Victor did not respond. Rachel received confirmation that the emergency request had been submitted. Until the order was signed, she could freeze the receiving authorization but not physically redirect the transport. Maya looked at the transfer screen. Can we see the route? Only the logistics destination requests, Rachel said. Maya moved closer. The transport system showed an intended path toward a secondary archive facility on the west side of the metro area. The route itself looked normal. Then another entry appeared. A location request had been made against the transport vehicle. Maya pointed to it. Who asked for that? Rachel checked the identifier. It's using the same type of routing request we saw on the tracker under your car. Maya studied the screen. The person who had tracked her was now watching the physical evidence. Evelyn asked, Can they see every internal transfer request? Rachel answered, Anyone with the right operations access could. Victor said, That describes more than one person. Maya turned toward him. We know. She looked back at the route. We shouldn't cancel anything yet. Rachel understood what she was considering. You want to feed the system another destination. A controlled request, not a real transfer. Evelyn asked, What would it tell us? If the tracking request follows the false destination, we know someone is watching our internal logistics activity in real time. Rachel thought about it. Victor shook his head. You'd be creating false operational data during an evidence breach. Evelyn answered, A documented investigative decoy is not the same thing as falsifying evidence. Victor looked at Rachel. You're seriously considering this? Yes. Rachel created a written authorization for a controlled logistics test. Evelyn reviewed the language before signing as legal witness. Maya did not use her own credential. The request indicated that the evidence transport might be redirected to Facility B. No vehicle was actually sent there. They waited. Nothing happened at first. Victor paced once across the room, then stopped. This proves nothing if nobody reacts. Maya kept watching the screen. A new location query appeared. Rachel leaned closer. The request was no longer focused on the original destination. It had shifted toward Facility B. Maya said, "There." Victor looked at the screen. Rachel checked the routing identifier twice. It followed the decoy. Maya nodded. "Whoever is watching has access to internal destination requests," Rachel added. "And they just confirmed they're still active." Victor's expression remained controlled. "That still doesn't identify a person." "No," Maya said. "But it narrows the access." Rachel documented the result and ordered the test channel preserved. A secure message arrived from the duty attorney. The emergency preservation order had been approved. Rachel immediately contacted Transport Control. "This is Chief Kim. You now have a signed preservation order. Hold the vehicle in place. Do not open the cargo compartment. Do not redirect it without written authorization." The dispatcher confirmed the instruction. Victor stepped forward. "Where is it?" Rachel looked at him. "That information is restricted until the driver confirms custody." "You think I'm involved?" "I think someone with operational access is involved." "That's not the same thing." "No, it isn't." The transport driver later confirmed the vehicle was stopped at a secure state checkpoint. Both evidence boxes remained inside. Rachel assigned a separate custody team to retrieve them. No one from Victor's operations staff was included. When the boxes returned to the facility, Maya stood behind the evidence boundary, while 2 technicians photographed them before removal from the transport vehicle. The first box appeared intact. The second did not. One corner of the evidence seal was slightly lifted. Rachel leaned closer. "Do not open it." The technician photographed the seal. Maya studied the adhesive edge. It was removed. "We don't know that yet," Rachel said. Evelyn joined them. "Can a seal lift during transport?" "Yes," the technician replied. "Heat, pressure, poor application. Several things can cause it." Maya pointed to a faint line across the adhesive. "But this one was pressed down again." The technician did not answer immediately. "I need to examine it under magnification." Rachel nodded. "Do that before the box is opened." Victor arrived outside the restricted area. "You recovered them?" Rachel turned toward him. "Yes. Anything missing?" "We haven't opened them." Victor looked at the damaged seal. His attention stayed there longer than Maya expected. Then he said, "If the chain is already compromised, you may have lost the evidentiary value." Evelyn looked at him. "That would be convenient." Victor faced her. "I'm stating a fact." "No. You're stating a conclusion before the examination." Rachel instructed a technician to escort Victor away from the restricted bay. He did not resist. Maya remained beside the evidence table. The tracker, the false authorization, the altered destination, and the damaged seal were now part of the same sequence. Someone inside the system had tried to control where the paper went and who could reach it. Evelyn stood beside Maya. "You still think evidence tells the truth by itself?" Maya looked at the lifted seal. "No." Evelyn waited. Maya continued. "Someone has to notice when the truth has been handled." Across the city, Owen Carter still had the recorder hidden in his possession, along with Mercer's voice and a decision he had not yet made. Owen contacted Evelyn through her private office line rather than any department system. He gave his name, said he needed to speak with her in person, and refused to explain more over the phone. Evelyn told him to come to her office. Maya was already there when Owen arrived. Rachel had remained at the state facility to supervise the examination of the damaged evidence seal and restrict further administrative access. When Evelyn's assistant announced Owen Carter, Maya immediately looked up from the documents on the conference table. "No." Evelyn closed the file in front of her. "You haven't heard what he wants." "I heard enough on the roadside." He asked to speak privately. He watched Mercer create the second collision. "Yes." He stayed quiet. "Yes." He signed the report. Evelyn nodded. "Yes." Maya leaned back in her chair. "Then why are we giving him another chance to explain himself?" "We're not giving him anything. We're listening." Maya looked toward the office door. "You trust him?" "No." That answer stopped her. Evelyn continued. "Trust isn't required to hear what someone brought." She told her assistant to send him in. Owen entered wearing civilian clothes instead of his uniform. He looked exhausted and carried a small paper bag in one hand. He stopped several feet from the table. Maya did not offer him a seat. Owen placed the bag in front of Evelyn. I was driving the cruiser during the first collision. Maya stared at him. I know. Owen nodded. You know Mercer lied about it. You don't know everything I did after that. Evelyn pointed toward the chair. Sit down and start at the beginning. Facts only. Owen Zott. He explained that he had not completed the departmental clearance required to operate the patrol unit on that assignment. Mercer knew it and still told him to drive. I should have refused, Owen said. I didn't. He described accelerating on Mercer's instruction, becoming distracted, and striking the rear of Maya's sedan. No one was injured, he continued. After you pulled over, Mercer saw the box in your back seat. Then he ordered me to switch places with him. Maya kept her eyes on Owen. He passed my car. Yes. And backed into me eating. Yes. Then told me I had hit him. Owen nodded. Maya's voice remained controlled. And you let him. Owen did not look away. Yes. Why? I was afraid. Of Mercer? Of losing everything I had just started. He took a breath. If I admitted I was driving, I had to admit I wasn't cleared to operate that cruiser. Mercer made it sound like the department would put the whole collision on me. Then he changed the records and told me he was protecting me. Maya said. So you protected him? Yes. There was no excuse in his answer. Owen continued. I signed a supplemental statement I knew was incomplete. After that, he started preparing records that could put me back in the driver's seat if the investigation turned against him. Evelyn leaned forward. Explain. He had one version showing himself as the driver. Then he showed me access records and garage images he could use to claim I took the cruiser without authorization. Maya understood immediately. He kept both exits open. Owen nodded. If the report survived, he was the driver. If it failed, I became the officer who caused everything. Evelyn looked at the paper bag. What's in there? Owen opened it and removed the digital recorder. Maya's attention shifted. What is that? A recorder I bought after Mercer showed me those records. It doesn't connect to the department network. No wireless connection. No cloud storage. Why did you buy it? At first? To protect myself. Maya said nothing. Owen looked directly at her. I'm not going to pretend I suddenly became brave. I thought Mercer was going to destroy my career, so I started recording him. Evelyn picked up the device without turning it on. Is this the original? Yes. Have you edited any files? No. Copied them? One backup to an offline storage device. Nothing else. Who knows you have it? No one outside this room. Evelyn placed the recorder back on the table. Then from this point forward, nobody touches it until we establish custody and have the recordings independently authenticated. Owen nodded. Maya looked at Evelyn. We need to hear what's on it. We can listen to a working copy after preservation. Owen reached into the bag and removed a second storage device. I brought one. Evelyn looked at him with mild surprise. I started learning. She connected the copy to an offline laptop. The first useful recording was short. Mercer's voice came through clearly. The tracker should have given us more time. Maya looked at Owen. Did he explain what he meant? No. I didn't ask. I was afraid he'd realize I was trying to get him talking. Evelyn played another segment. Owen's recorded voice asked what would happen if investigators reconstructed both collisions. Mercer answered without hesitation. The first hit was your problem. The second hit fixed it. Maya sat completely still. The recording continued. Owen asked whether the convoy had been expected. Mercer replied. Victor said they'd be far enough back. Evelyn stopped the audio. For several seconds, no one spoke. Maya finally said, Victor. Owen nodded. That's the first time Mercer used his name with me. Maya reached toward the laptop. So we have the connection. Evelyn closed the screen. We have a statement. It's his voice. And his attorney will say context, editing, misunderstanding, or improper recording. A recording is not a verdict. Owen lowered his eyes. Then it's not enough. Evelyn looked at him. I didn't say that. Maya understood. We don't use it as the whole case. Evelyn nodded. We use it as a map. The phrase changed the room. The tracker statement told them to examine who had expected additional time. The comment about the second collision confirmed. Mercer understood there were two impacts. Victor's name connected the roadside plan to someone inside the operations system. Each statement pointed toward evidence they could verify independently. Evelyn turned to Owen. You need your own attorney. I'm not asking for immunity. Good, because I didn't offer it. Owen accepted that. I know I may lose the job. Maya looked at him. You signed a false statement. I know. You let Mercer accuse me while you knew what happened. I know. His refusal to defend himself reduced some of Maya's anger, but it did not remove it. Owen said, I thought loyalty meant not being the first person to break ranks. Evelyn looked at him. Loyalty without conscience eventually serves the wrong person. Owen nodded. Slowly, Maya looked again at the recorder. Victor had been careful because he believed they were still trying to prove what he knew. That gave her an idea. What would make Victor stop protecting the records he changed? Evelyn studied her. Maya looked toward the files on the table. If he believed the paper evidence no longer mattered, he might start cleaning up the digital trail. Evelyn's expression changed. You want him to think he already won? Maya nodded. For the first time since the collision, she was no longer preparing to respond to Mercer or Victor. She was preparing to decide what they would believe next. Rachel reviewed Maya's proposal with Evelyn before allowing anything to move forward. The plan was simple. Victor needed to believe the paper evidence had lost most of its value. They could not alter the evidence itself, and they could not create a false record that might later be mistaken for real evidence. What they could do was issue a controlled administrative notice stating that one portion of the paper ledger had suffered possible contamination during the disputed transfer and would require additional validation before being relied upon. The notice would be documented as part of an investigative strategy and limited to a channel Victor was authorized to monitor. Evelyn read the draft twice. This says the paper may be unreliable, she said. That's what we want him to believe. Maya replied. It does not say it was destroyed. No. It does not say the records are excluded. No. Evelyn handed the document back to Rachel. Then I'm comfortable with it. Rachel signed the authorization. Victor received the notice through the normal operations channel. No one contacted him directly. No one asked for a reaction. They waited. Maya remained in the secure conference room with Rachel and an independent forensic examiner who had been brought in from outside Victor's chain of command. Evelyn sat near the end of the table, reviewing the custody records from Owen's recorder. At first, nothing changed. Then the examiner looked up from his monitor. We have activity. Rachel walked over. What kind? Administrative deletions. Maya stood. Which files? The examiner opened a list. Several root authorization records had been removed from active storage. A small group of access requests disappeared next. Then 2 auction metadata files and 1 internal payment reference document were deleted. Rachel asked, Routine maintenance? No. How can you tell? The files were selected individually. They don't share a retention category, age, or storage policy. Maya looked at the list. What do they share? The examiner opened the metadata for the deleted records. They all connect to either the Williams transfer, the tracking requests, or the vehicle auction review. Evelyn closed her folio. So someone saw the paper notice and started cleaning the digital side. The examiner nodded. That would be consistent with what we're seeing. Rachel asked, Can we identify the account? Privileged administrative token. Whose? He ran the comparison. The result appeared on the screen. Victor Lang. Maya did not react immediately. Could his token have been cloned the same way yours was? She asked Rachel. Yes, the examiner added. But there's a difference. He opened another log. These deletions were approved through a secondary administrator confirmation. The confirmation came from Victor's assigned workstation. Rachel asked, Physical access? Badge entry matches. Camera? The examiner checked. Victor entered the operations suite. Maya looked at Rachel. Can we prove he was at the workstation? Not yet, Evelyn said. Then don't say we can. Rachel nodded. They continued reviewing the records. The deletion pattern itself mattered. Whoever had removed the files had chosen only documents that became dangerous if the paper records could be compared against them. Maya pointed to an auction file. This one changes the release classification. The examiner opened the preserved backup. The original electronic entry showed that an owner had failed to appear. The paper record showed the owner had signed a release request. Another deleted file connected a vehicle auction purchase to one of the 3 LLCs Maya had identified. A third showed a route request made before her convoy entered the service road. Maya looked at the sequence. He's not deleting everything. Rachel understood. He's deleting connections. Yes, that made the pattern more useful. A complete system failure could be explained as technical. Selective removal required choices. Rachel ordered the deleted records preserved from backup and added the event to the evidence log. Evelyn looked at Maya. Victor thinks the paper problem gave him room. And if Victor thinks that, Maya said, Mercer probably does too. Rachel checked the tracker analysis. We may have something else. The technician who had examined the hidden tracker had completed a cross-reference against agency and municipal systems. Several requests had come through Victor's administrative channel, but another set originated from a police-side terminal associated with Mercer's precinct. Maya moved closer. Before the roadside encounter, Rachel opened the request history. The patrol cruiser had not yet reached Maya's location when the first query was made. Maya read the record twice. Could Mercer have had a legitimate reason to check my vehicle? Rachel shook her head. Not from anything documented. No dispatch? No. No traffic stop? No. No active call involving my plate? None that we've found. Evelyn looked at Maya. Maya spoke quietly. He didn't find me by accident. No. Evelyn said. He was waiting for me. Rachel pointed to a second tracker query. This one came later, after the first request, but still before the collision. Maya looked at the identifier. Same police terminal? Yes. That tied Mercer more directly to the route than his report allowed. Maya remembered his statement on the roadside. Whatever meeting you're trying to make, you won't make it tonight. He had known she was going somewhere because he had known she was being tracked. Evelyn closed the tracker report. Now we let him keep thinking the paper evidence is damaged. Rachel looked at her. You want him at the hearing. I want him committed to his version before he knows what survived. Maya agreed. The formal administrative hearing was already being scheduled. Mercer had been asked to provide testimony regarding the collision, the municipal records allegation, and the handling of the patrol unit. After the controlled notice circulated, his attorney confirmed that Mercer would appear voluntarily. Rachel raised an eyebrow when she read the message. He's confident. Maya looked at the decoy notice. He thinks our strongest records are weakened, Evelyn added, and people become less careful when they believe the difficult part is over. A subpoena was issued for Victor. Owen's counsel confirmed that Owen would testify. The independent examiner completed preservation of the deletion logs. Rachel secured the tracker analysis under separate custody. By the end of the day, each part of the case had been separated, documented, and prepared for review. Maya later stood beside her damaged sedan in the evidence bay. The rear still showed the first collision. The front still showed the second. Evelyn joined her. You planning to repair it? Eventually. Why wait? Maya looked at the damage. Because the record should see what two different decisions did to the same car. Evelyn nodded. No more needed to be said. Maya returned to the conference room, where the hearing notice was waiting. Mercer would appear. Victor would be questioned. Owen would testify. Maya closed the folder. Now we let them tell their story one last time. The administrative hearing opened in a state government building in downtown Atlanta. Reporters filled the public seats, while representatives from the police department, the towing contractors, and the state review office sat behind separate tables. Mercer arrived in uniform with an attorney beside him. Owen sat across the room with independent counsel. Victor appeared under subpoena and was placed near the operations representatives. Maya sat beside Evelyn. Rachel remained with the evidence team. Evelyn waited until Mercer had been sworn in before approaching the first subject. Lieutenant Mercer, were you driving the patrol unit before the first collision involving Miss Williams? Yes. Was Officer Carter operating the vehicle? No. Did your patrol unit pass Miss Williams's sedan before the collision you reported? No. Did the patrol unit reverse into her vehicle? No. Did you know where Miss Williams would be before you encountered her? No. And did you know a protective convoy was traveling behind her? Mercer looked toward Maya before answering. No. Evelyn returned to her table. She did not challenge him. Instead, Rachel's evidence team introduced the patrol cruiser's preserved telemetry. An independent examiner explained the sequence in simple terms. The first recorded impact occurred while the driver position data was consistent with Owen. After that impact, the cruiser continued forward, past Maya's sedan, stopped ahead of it, shifted into reverse, accelerated, and made a second impact with the front of Maya's car. Mercer's attorney stood. Vehicle telemetry is not always conclusive regarding occupant identity. Evelyn nodded. Agreed. Mercer looked surprised. She turned toward Owen. Owen was sworn in and took his seat. Officer Carter, Evelyn said, who was driving during the first collision. I was. A quiet reaction moved through the room. Were you properly cleared to operate that patrol unit during the assignment? No. Did Lieutenant Mercer know that? Yes. What caused the first collision? I accelerated after he told me to go faster. I became distracted and hit the rear of Miss Williams's car. Was anyone injured? No. What happened after Miss Williams pulled over? Lieutenant Mercer told me to switch places with him. Owen described Mercer driving past Maya's sedan, stopping ahead of it, and reversing into the front of her car. Evelyn asked, "Why did you remain silent at the scene?" Owen looked toward the panel. I was afraid of losing my career. I knew I should not have been driving. Afterward, I signed a statement I knew did not tell the full truth. Did your silence help Mercer's version become official? Yes. Owen did not try to explain further. Evelyn introduced the recorder next. Its original device and storage history had already been authenticated by an independent examiner. The first clip played. Mercer's voice filled the hearing room. The first hit was your problem. The second hit fixed it. Mercer shifted in his chair. His attorney immediately said, "That statement lacks context." Evelyn answered, "Then we'll add context." The second recording played. Owen's voice asked about the convoy. Mercer replied, "Victor said they'd be far enough back." Every person near Victor turned toward him. Evelyn returned to Mercer. "You testified that you did not know a convoy was behind Miss Williams." Mercer hesitated. "I may have learned about it afterward." "Then, why did you discuss how far behind it would be?" Mercer looked toward his attorney. Evelyn did not press him further. She called Rachel's tracker examiner. The hidden device recovered from Maya's sedan had stored records of location requests. Several requests were tied to operations credentials connected to Victor's system. Others were associated with a police-side terminal at Mercer's precinct. Most importantly, the requests were made before Mercer claimed to have encountered Maya by chance. Evelyn asked Mercer, "What legitimate police purpose required your system to request Miss Williams's location before you met her?" "I never personally made that request." "That wasn't the question." Mercer did not answer. Victor was questioned next. He denied placing the tracker, denied manipulating Rachel's credentials, and described the deleted digital records as routine system maintenance. The independent forensic examiner then presented the deletion pattern. The removed files were not random. They included route authorizations, tracker-related access records, auction metadata, and payment references connected to Maya's review. The deletions had been performed with Victor's privileged administrative token and confirmed through his assigned workstation. Victor said, "My credentials may also have been compromised." Rachel's counsel asked, "At the same time your badge placed you inside the operations suite?" Victor remained silent. The final evidence involved money. Maya testified only to what she had verified. Original paper tow forms showed vehicle conditions and owner release attempts that later differed from city records. Those altered classifications allowed storage fees to continue and pushed some vehicles toward auction. 3 separate companies repeatedly purchased the vehicles. Their payments were administered through the same financial office. Banking records obtained through lawful process showed consulting transfers flowing through intermediaries connected to Victor. Other payment records aligned with administrative approvals involving Mercer. Evelyn placed one carbon copy form beside the later electronic record. The paper stated that the vehicle had arrived, non-operational. The city record described it as operable and said the owner had failed to remove it. One changed line, Evelyn said, affected fees, responsibility, custody, and eventually whether that vehicle could be sold. The panel recessed before issuing its findings. By the end of the proceeding, Mercer was suspended pending criminal investigation and referral involving falsified records, obstruction, evidence tampering, conspiracy, and financial misconduct. Victor lost system access immediately and was referred for investigation into unauthorized access, credential manipulation, evidence interference, and conspiracy. Owen was not cleared of responsibility. He faced disciplinary proceedings for operating the cruiser without proper authorization and for signing an inaccurate statement. He agreed to cooperate fully. Outside the hearing room, he approached Maya. "I don't expect you to forgive me." "Good," Maya said. Owen looked surprised. "Do the next right thing without needing forgiveness first." He nodded and walked away with his attorney. The broader review continued. Several impound cases were reopened. Improper fees were examined. Auction records were challenged. Former vehicle owners received notices that their cases would be reviewed again. There was no single day when everything became fair. Some people recovered money. Others received new hearings. Some cases remained unresolved. Weeks later, Maya returned to the evidence room after the release paperwork was complete. Isaiah Williams's document box sat on the table. Beside it were the sealed tracker, the escrow receipt, and a certified copy of the hearing findings. Evelyn entered carrying 2 coffees. This time, Maya had already eaten breakfast. Evelyn looked at the items on the table. Which one saved the case? Maya considered the paper records, the tracker, and Owen's recorded testimony. None of them alone. Evelyn nodded. That's usually how truth works. Maya opened the box and removed one of Isaiah's original vehicle condition forms. At the bottom, in his handwriting, were 5 words. Condition observed. Record before release. Maya returned the form to its folder and closed the box. A lie only needs one person to write it down. The truth survives when enough people refuse to let the record end there. This story reminds us that truth does not always win quickly, and justice does not always arrive in a perfect way. Sometimes the first report is wrong, the first witness is afraid, and the people with authority seem to control the entire story. But when evidence is preserved, when ordinary people choose honesty over fear, and when someone refuses to let a false record become the final word, the truth still has a chance to survive. Thank you for staying with us and listening all the way to the end of this story. Your time and support truly mean a lot to us. We would also love to hear your thoughts. Did you enjoy the way this story was told? Was the pacing clear and engaging? And were there any parts you think we could tell better? Your feedback helps us improve every story we bring to this channel. And if you have a powerful, meaningful, or unforgettable story of your own that you believe deserves to be heard, please consider sharing it with us. Your story may become the inspiration for a future episode and may help someone else feel seen, understood, or encouraged. Thank you again for listening, and we hope you'll join us for the next story. This video is a work of fiction created with the assistance of artificial intelligence. All characters, events, and situations are not real and do not represent any actual people or true stories. The content is intended for storytelling and emotional illustration only.